Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Excited to be back with you for another episode and getting to speak to a fellow agency owner. I actually am a former agency owner. He's a current agency owner. So I know we're going to have lots to talk about. His name is Alex Quin. If you have not met him or seen him, he's all over social media, putting out a ton of amazing free value that I know we're going to hear about. And I'm excited to get into it with him. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
Yes, of course. Thanks for making the time and showing up here. Where are you located?
I'm in Miami right now.
Miami. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a nice, is it getting warm yet? It's probably what, mid-90s?
Yeah. Some days it gets crazy and it rains on and off. Like Miami, it rains 15 minutes, then sun, then rains 15 minutes again. So
yeah, we did an event about 2 years ago. I did an event in Miami in June. Mm-hmm. And I do remember that I think it rained at least one of the days. So yeah, that's consistent with my experience. So, as I kind of said, and I think, my listeners all know, like the goal here is I want to get past the fluff, past the hype, past all the awards and accolades that, successful entrepreneurs tend to get for themselves, frankly, to keep us motivated. It makes it fun. But I want to get past all that. I want to get into the meat, even the dirt of what it takes and how, we get to this point where basically we get to have, I think, what most people want really deeply, which is just control of our life and control of our time. It's not even about the money, at least for me. So do you mind, first of all, maybe set the stage for anyone that doesn't know you, a little bit about you, about your life right now. And then I really want to quickly get into the before you were Alex Quin, big shot, and get into the, the origins. But start by telling us who you are.
Yeah. So, man, thanks for the intro.
Of course.
Like you said, I'm Alex Quin. I'm a marketing specialist. I specialize in growing companies using digital strategies, digital omni-channel strategies. That's what I do. I partner with companies. I make sure that we have a good synergy, we have a good fit, and I help them scale. I bring my team, my agency, my experience, my strategies, everything we've created, all of our assets to the table, and we help companies grow. So that's what I do right now. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. Cool. And like I said, I come from the agency world. I had an agency for 6 years. I sold it. It's been almost 2 years now since I sold it. It'll be 2 years in September. And I sold it to focus full-time on education, educating people about business and entrepreneurship and all these amazing opportunities that are out there, including, for example, the opportunity to learn the skills and start an agency. That was one of the things I did. You mentioned, so for those that are seeing this on YouTube, you're well familiar with this picture that I have on this print on the wall behind me. You mentioned they're actually clients of yours, right?
Iconic, yes.
Yeah, really cool.
Kind of our agency.
Cool. So they're a client of yours. Obviously, I know from experience you do a great job with them because I've totally scanned all their not all of it, but a lot of their advertising, and I'm a customer, and they have great marketing for sure.
They do a great job. Well, to be clear, we don't do their marketing. We do special pieces with them. So we do design for them. So yeah. So we get really deep into the type of pieces we're going to release. We have some very popular pieces like departures, arrivals, the passport pieces. So pretty much, when you go to the airport and you see the screen with all your arrivals and the flight numbers. So it's basically like one of those screens that says departures, and it has things that need to depart out of your life. Ooh. Right? And then arrivals, things that need to arrive in. So it's a set. Those have been extremely popular. They've been everywhere. We've gone viral on TikTok. I don't know how many millions of views already with those. So it's been a fun experience. Yeah, they're one of our clients right now.
Well, Iconic is known for amazing design. I mean, that's what they are. Is they sell prints of designs. And if you're in a design partnership with them, again, you can reasonably extract that you do great work, right?
Yeah.
Actually, so now maybe this is an interesting thing to share, because that's really the point here, is to talk about the so-called departures and arrivals in your life, in the life of the aspiring entrepreneur and the person that, wants the secret to becoming a millionaire, right? And Millionaire Secrets. Tell me what they are. Do you remember any of the copy from the piece?
I do not remember the copy from the piece. Michelle, what were some of the copy on the departures piece? Regret.
Ooh.
Judgment. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We designed a ton of pieces.
Yeah, no, it's good. I put you on the spot. Hey, you know what? That's plenty, though. Regret and judgment. So, in fact, let's put a pin in that. But we're going to come back to that, especially the judgment piece. And certainly regret, too. Those are often coupled. The things we don't do for fear of judgment end up becoming our regrets, right?
Yep.
So let's put a pin in that and backtrack. So now you're a successful agency owner. You learn these skills. I talk all the time about the value of particular skills in the new world that set you free and create all this opportunity. But back me up. If my notes are correct, you did not always know these things. You used to earn a living doing different things with processed fast food. Am I right?
Yeah. I used to work at Miami Subs. That was my first job.
Okay.
That's pretty much, I was in high school during that time. And then moved on to Pizza Hut. And then after Pizza Hut is when my marketing career started. But I saved money from those places and everything I did in between. I would work in fast food industry, make money from fast food, get my checks, buy cell phones, flip cell phones. After I flipped the cell phones, I would buy cars, flip cars, and then I would just do whatever I could to make money online. So I used Craigslist. I used like everything that was being used at the moment, like Facebook, to sell what I needed to sell. And that, I think that's probably the origins of me getting into digital marketing, just like seeing the value on the internet. I was like, probably 17 years old on an iPhone, selling iPhones and selling cars. And then I would go on Craigslist. I'll take pictures of the cars with my iPhone and then upload them and then sell like $1,000, $2,000 cars while I wasn't doing fast food. So I was actively busy. I was always trying to make money no matter what.
So I love that story. I know that there's so much richness in the details that we haven't even gotten into, but just the basic story of like, I'm working in fast food. I have teenagers, 2 teenage boys, and they actually work for me. Like if they need money, they do jobs for me, but some of their friends work in fast food. Like it's not glamorous work, right? I mean, you get greasy and whatever. It is what it is. People can imagine if they've never done it, but the thing that jumps out at me is that when you got off that work, or even when you had breaks at that work, you weren't doing what a lot of, you said you started in high school. You weren't doing what a lot of young people do, which is kick back, recharge, relax, play Xbox, play Fortnite, or what's the other one? I forget. You didn't do that stuff. You're like flipping cars on iPhones on your iPhone on these sites. And what drove you? What motivated you? Why were you different? Because frankly, that's not the norm.
I just wanted to help my parents. So like, not that I had to, or like they were asking me to, but if I was like active, right, and I was making money for myself and for things to help out around the house, so I didn't have to ask my parents for money, then that was good in my book, right? I went through like middle school and high school. I went to private school, right? But my parents spent like all their money putting me through middle school and private school. So I understood like it was difficult because like we spent literally all of our money on the school. So it was like, all right, like if I do my thing and like I'm able to help out with different things, like different extracurricular activities or different things I wanted to do related to the school, like I wouldn't have to go home and ask mom and dad for money because I knew that they would probably give it to me, but then they wouldn't have money for themselves. And I thought that was pretty fucked up. So I just did my thing. I did whatever I could with the tools that I had.
So it's interesting. I wonder how much the fact that your parents, it doesn't sound like you were like a rich kid, right? I mean, it wasn't just like a given, oh yeah, we're going to send our kids to private school. It was like they had to scrape and hustle and make it happen, which meant that it clearly your family placed a high value on education.
Yep. Right.
And so you had this instinctive sense of the value of learning. And frankly, it's something that, again, because I have 2 teenagers and we always have like teenagers at our house. And like, some days I wake up on Saturday morning and there's like, well, usually I wake up before them, but they'll straggle downstairs and there's like 11 kids at our house, teenagers. It seems to be the place that people come. So I feel like I've had a lot of exposure. And again, this concept of the value of education, even that is not necessarily the norm for young people.
No.
Right. So it's the value, you've got the value of hard work and frankly, cramming in as much of it as possible, coupled with the value of education that says not only, I'm assuming, oh man, I got to learn something if I want to do something, but in fact, maybe you'd even be excited to learn something.
Yeah.
Right. And then, now people look at your life now, oh, he's, why is he so successful? Well, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like put those two things together. You're willing to work hard and you enjoy the process of learning and you value it. I mean, is that the secret?
Yeah. And I think like consistency too, right? Like one of the secrets is consistency. Like I've gone through really difficult shit being an entrepreneur and owning an agency. It's not easy. And it's not just like, oh, like, let me like automate a business and it's running and like I have passive income coming in like that. It doesn't work like that in real life. Like whoever's pitching it to you like that, it's probably not the way. Like if you want to be really successful at something, you have to continue to do it, even when things aren't going good. And at that moment, you have to do two things: either push yourself to keep going, or maybe understand that maybe you need to stay within the same business, but pivot the way that you're operating. Kind of like what's going on right now in the world with COVID, that many companies have had to pivot. You have to be able to pivot your business and change and grow and evolve so you don't die out, right? Mm-hmm. So if you stay consistent, you're going to be able to see your company through all of those pivots and be able to be it's going to be very dynamic how you adjust to the system and to the market shifts. And you're going to be able to have a successful business, like a business that continues to grow or a business that gets bought out, kind of like your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, totally right. Even just in my, even if I just take one business, I mean, I've owned a lot of different businesses now, but I could pick any one and it's always a story of like multiple pivots, multiple shifts, all this, all these things. So how did you become a person that was going to naturally be adaptable and be a pivoter, so to speak? It seems like some people do that well and some people don't. And I'm curious, why do you think you do it so well?
Because I'm constantly, like some people are constantly working to perfect a process so they could relax, right? So they could invest more time into doing something else or into their hobby or into anything that they're interested in. And for me, my only interest is to continue to grow my company and to continue to provide the tools for my team to be able to grow so we could all be successful. So there was a quote that Gary Vaynerchuk, I think he posted yesterday. And it was something like, a leader, like his team doesn't work for him. He works for his team. So my purpose is in marketing and what I do, which is market for companies and build strategies, is to be as informed as I could be and on top of the game as I could be, understanding all the new trends, understanding all the new strategies, understanding all the new softwares, understanding all the events, conferences that are happening, like staying on the cutting edge of what's going on and then passing that knowledge to my team and to everyone around me who's helping me scale so we could be successful together and everybody could keep an eye out and be properly informed of how the company is operating, how it's like talking to its consumers, how it's projecting its values, and how it continues to grow, specifically at a difficult time like now. Like now, so many people are relying on digital. Digital sales are crazy right now in the last few months. Mm-hmm. And now better than ever, is at the time for us to bring our skills forward. But it's been years, right? So it's been years. When I first started the agency, people didn't even believe in advertising on Instagram. You would have to really try your hardest to convince somebody that it was valuable for them to advertise on Instagram. And now people are pouring in, calling because they want to know. They don't understand and they want to know because they need to be on the internet because in many places things are closed and they're not able to do things. So they have no choice. So now all of that consistency, right? All of that knowledge, all of that experience of the past, I don't know, I talked to you about high school, right? That's when I was like moving the most, like doing so many things at the same time, like probably like 10 years, 12 years now. And the catalyst is something globally happening where the need for what I'm doing is great and I'm extremely prepared for it. It's not like some people like to talk about luck, but luck is when hard work meets opportunity. right? So you may not have the opportunity right now or in a week or in 2 weeks or in a month, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have it, right? So most people will quit before they get that opportunity. But if you continue to persist, your time will come where the dots will connect and you'll be in the right room or in the right conversation or on the right feed or on the right email chain, and something will happen, and then everything you've ever worked for will finally come together as an opportunity where you're going to make great money and be able to be growing with some great people around you.
It's funny you say that, and I don't mean necessarily haha funny. I mean more like ironic funny, because I think about my career. I've been educating people about online business since 2008. Well, I guess probably since 2009. I started in 2008. Had a pretty quick result. And by 2009, I was getting hit up to like coach, like, hey, Jeff, I saw you did this thing. Will you help me? And then ever since then, in various levels, I've been involved somewhat in at least mentoring, and sometimes, full on, like now I'm a full-time educator and I sell training and all this stuff. And I think about all the people, to go with what you just said, all the people who bought training or bought coaching, or essentially they declared, I want to generate income online, or I want to build a business online, right? From 2009 to 2020. I've been doing this, what's that? That's 12 years that quit before COVID.
Yep.
Like I said, it's not haha funny.
It's all right. Yeah,
this is the moment that all that preparation could have blossomed.
Yeah. And they stopped because somebody told them that they were crazy or that it would never work.
Exactly. So I want to, that which brings us back to judgment and regret. So you're working at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And you're getting off on breaks or off your shift or whatever. What were your coworkers doing when they would get off of work?
Most of them had another job. Most of them just worked a double shift to pick up, overtime.
Yeah. And
some were students, some were.
Did you limit yourself to just one shift and then say, I'm going to intentionally spend the other time doing these more entrepreneurial things?
Yeah, because for me, so let me put you into perspective. So let's talk about high school, right? So I'm in high school. I get out of high school. One of my routines was I got out of high school. I used to work at Hollister. Hollister and Miami Subs were my first jobs. I worked at both places at the same time. Everywhere I went that I applied to, they gave me the job. When I first turned the age, I think it was 15. When I first turned the age, I said, all right, I'm going to go apply everywhere because I need a job, right? So they gave me a job everywhere. I applied at Hollister, I applied at Champs, I applied at Miami Subs, I applied at a few places. They all called me back, told me I got the job. So after school, I said, shit, I'm gonna take Miami Subs and I'm gonna take Hollister, and fuck it, let's see what's up. Let's see how much money I can make. I wanted to get an iPhone. I wanted to get sneakers. I wanted to take girls out. I wanted to do things like teenage guys want to do, right? And I didn't want to have to ask my parents for that. So I'm like, all right, I'll go to school, I'll get good grades in school, I'll work, and then on the weekend, or I'll get myself video games or whatever I wanted to get at that time. So I would leave school, go to Hollister, right? Work at Hollister from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., right? I would get out of Hollister, and then I would get in my car, go to Miami Subs, come into Miami Subs probably 7 p.m. and then work till 11 p.m. because they didn't let me work till any later because of school. Right. So I would do that several times a week. And then while in school, with the money that I made in Hollister and Miami Subs, I would purchase accessories like necklaces and bracelets and stuff that people would want to wear. And I would sell them while in school. So during school, I would make money flipping things that I used with money that I made after school. So that I was rotating constantly throughout the school. I was getting money. I was getting money at school. I was getting good grades. I was working at these two places. And then eventually when I started making more money and accumulating checks, that's when I started doing the cars. So I would just buy cars on Craigslist. I would leave school. I would go check out cars in different neighborhoods. I would just show up sometimes to my house. And then I would be to my parents oh, I just bought a car. I was 17, 16. Oh, I just bought a Mercedes. For what? Nah, I'm just going to flip it. I already have another buyer for next week. Next week somebody shows up, gives me an extra $1,000 for it. And then I would just continue to do that. And then eventually the Pizza Hut job came, they offered me manager. I was manager at the store. I was 18 at the time. So I took it. I was in charge of, I don't know, probably like 20 people at 18 years old. Like I was looked after the profit and loss statements. I looked at the scheduling, the money, the cleaning logistics. I had to take a food safety course. So I had to take care of the food, make sure that it was always at the right temperature, doing rounds. So like I had to, like I was in environments where I had to heavily multitask. Things were constantly happening around me and shit was happening and variables were taking place that were extremely stressful and people couldn't handle. So I would have to handle it at 18, but then like have issues with older people that didn't want to listen to me because they were like 40, 50, 60, 35. And then here you have an 18-year-old kid, like store manager, right? Telling you like what to do. But I did well. I pulled it off. And then after that, like, you know, I had all that money saved up from all that time and all those things saved up from that time. And that's when I like, you know, graduated high school, did college, went to school for advertising. And during that is when I first started to get into actually like registering a business and building a company versus just like selling things online and just like getting by as a kid.
So, yeah, I mean, again, there's the richness in the detail that I was talking about. I mean, it's such a cool story, and it's so, you know, it goes against all the stereotypes of like high school kids, right? Oh, they're lazy, they're entitled, they just want to chill, and so I'm curious, you know, whether it was at 18 or it was, you know, 20 or at whatever point you sort of started to really. And maybe it's a question, is like, at what point did you say, okay, I'm now going to fully commit to being an entrepreneur rather than just having it be like a side thing? When was that?
I guess to me at the time, since I wasn't like extremely educated on entrepreneurship, like I didn't see it as entrepreneurship, but I was already an entrepreneur, right? As far back as 7 years old, I remember selling my first things. Like I would go to like warehouses with my grandmother and she would buy wholesale, like duffel bags and purses. And at that age, I started grabbing my money that I had, little money, $40, $50, $60. And I would buy $40, $50 purses and then flip them. So from that age, from 7 years old. So essentially, I was an entrepreneur back then and I was fully in-depth into it. Like you saw how in-depth I got into moving money around, but I didn't see it as a business until I actually registered a business with the state and said, I had my name on it and said, all right, like you have a company now, you gotta pay taxes on the money that you make. That's when I really saw it, like, all right, this is a business. And that was probably at around like age 19, when I started a car event company. So we would do like car meets, car events, sponsors. We had DuPont Registry come out, the Lamborghini franchises came out and supported the local news. We had hundreds of cars, the police department. Like at 19 years old in Miami, I rented out the entire parking garage of the Marlins Park, one of the parking garages. I went to the city, I locked it in, I paid deposits, I got insurances with my business partner at the time, and we made an event. Like that event had probably, I don't know, like 300 cars and a ton of press, and nobody was doing things like that at the time. You know, there was people doing similar stuff, there was people doing great stuff, but nobody was doing it like that at the time where they were involving so many things into the event or into creating a great experience for people. But it wasn't profitable for me. It was extremely cool to connect with other people, but you couldn't charge too much for car events, for car shows, you know? So it wasn't as profitable as I would have wanted it to be, but it was a great foundation for me to start to meet other people and scale and do some great things. So yeah, at 18, 19, that's when I first said, all right, it's a company, it's a business. Let's see what we're going to do with this.
Very cool. Yeah, I was 22 in 2001. I was born in 79, so I guess I was 22 when I got my LLC. Actually, it was a S corp, but yeah, that's like this big thing, you know, when you're young and you're an entrepreneur. I forget who I was talking to the other day. It was one of these interviews, and somebody said that the number one predictor of whether or not people are going to grow up to be successful entrepreneurs is, and I guess this isn't surprising, but whether or not they sold stuff to their classmates in school. I was like, yeah, well, you did, I did. He's right. That's totally it. I had a book rental company I would tell my parents I wanted to read books, which, what parent is going to go, no, I'm not getting you a book for a, 12-year-old kid. And I would read the book, and then I would take it to school and I would rent it to my friend. It was like Stephen King books, like horror books that they weren't allowed to read.
Yeah.
So I'd rent them for $1 a night.
Look at that.
And anyway, so you're 19 or, in that early, I mean, man, you're doing all this stuff young. I gotta applaud you there. Was there ever a point where the people around you were like, hey man, this is all cool, but maybe you want to, sounds, especially if you're a manager at Pizza Hut, right? I have to think there was at least somebody in your life who was like, hey, that's a real career. You could be on a track. You're 18 and you've already got this responsibility. Maybe you should focus on taking that more seriously and kind of let this other side stuff, drift away. Was there anybody in your life pushing you like that?
Not one.
Really?
Not one. That's where I can't like I don't think I'll ever be a person that's like, oh, like for the doubters or whatever. Like I'm sure I've had people that have doubted me. Maybe not to my face. For sure, everybody has those people, right? But like my family, the people around me, no. Like everybody around me has always like I paint the picture for them and they get it and they see it and they're like, nah, you're good. Like you're onto something. And like maybe we could refine it, maybe we could polish it. Maybe we could look at it from this aspect, but you're not like, you're good. Nobody's ever like told me, hey, you shouldn't do that. Or, hey, maybe you should stay doing this. Everybody's been like, hey, like what you're doing, like it's working. And, like people are reacting well to it. And I think you're doing a good job. And they would give me constructive criticism. I made sure to surround myself with people who gave me good advice, and to educate myself, pay consultants, right?
Yeah.
There was things I didn't know how to do before. At 19 years old, I was paying consultants. You better believe it. I was paying consultants. Whatever I had to pay them. Tell me what I need to do. Like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. What do I do now? And what do I do after this? And what do I do after that? And then if this happens, then what happens here? And then like I have my questions and like I'm always thinking 50, 100 steps ahead. So it was just like trying to like fortify my weak areas at all times. That was the name of the game for me at all times. Just fortify my weak areas, try to get better, understand how things work, the mechanisms of things, why people did things a certain way, why did people think a certain way, what makes people spend money, what do they need right now, like what's bothering them, what is the best way of getting around, like what is the best way of negotiating, putting the right price. It was just like I was just constantly trying to educate myself without even knowing that I was trying to educate myself. I was just like, it was like I was laser focused on doing shit is as if I was following like a invisible path that I was already set there, and I just didn't question it and nobody questioned it. It was just keep going.
So one of the things I talk a lot about with both my students and just my audience in general is like the entrepreneurial quality of certainty. Certainty is contagious. And in every interaction, somebody's more certain than the other, right? And over time, either your certainty is spreading or your uncertainty is allowing other people's beliefs and certainty to spread into you.
Yours and become yours. Yeah.
And so my take on you, because I mean, most people don't answer that question and say, oh, well, I've never had any doubters, or if I have, they always kept their mouth shut, right? But you strike me as an incredibly certain person. It doesn't mean you're cocky. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't mean you think you know how to do everything. You'll spend money, you'll surround yourself, you'll seek out mentors or, experts to learn new things. But you, it sounds like, have always had a pretty high degree of certainty.
Yeah.
Like you said, laser focus on a specific path. And I hope that everybody hearing this who's, my show is called Millionaire Secrets. So I like to think that people are listening, trying to figure out the secret to being really successful.
Yeah.
That certainty is a huge piece. And that's something you can go to work on now. You can go to work on at any point, even if you haven't had the result. And in your case, I'll ask you, maybe it's an obvious question or an obvious answer, but what came first, the result or the certainty?
Certainty.
Yeah. And do you know, I mean, you obviously interact, you have a podcast, right? Hustle Inspires Hustle is your show. Yeah. Do you have a lot of entrepreneurs on there?
Oh man, we have some great entrepreneurs on there. I've had some great conversations. We have some unreleased episodes. Probably by the time this comes out, they'll be out. We have Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, Chris Voss, Dave Meltzer, Andy Frisella, Randy Zuckerberg, the co-founder of Iconic, Jeff Cole. We were just talking about Iconic before he was on it. Neil Patel for the marketers, Eric Sue. Like, man, there's so many people I'm missing, but some great people, great conversations. It's just people that I've come across in my path and have been able to do things with, or connected with, or, you know, have been synergies. And that's pretty much the purpose of that, just spreading our message and trying to teach like my experience in building an agency and being a business owner to people who need tools and maybe don't have resources. And, you know, maybe they could open up YouTube or Spotify and listen to my podcast, or listen to a guest and consume content that encourages them, inspires them, shows them a way of doing things that maybe they didn't know, and then ultimately changing their life.
So absolutely. It sounds amazing. I plan to become a fan. I mean, I'm going to check it out myself. It sounds like we have similar missions. But let me ask you this about all those people you just named, and then everyone else you had on your show. Do any of them lack certainty?
No. And I've noticed, I mean, maybe, right? But not that I've like saw like, okay, there's a lack of certainty. No.
Again, it's not, you know, irrational, ego-driven cockiness, but I mean, they have a center of confidence and certainty, right? Like they wouldn't be who they are.
Yeah. Like the common denominator in a lot of the people that I speak to on the podcast and in general business, right? The people I do business with, they're extremely sure of what they're doing. They don't know the exact time when it's going to come to fruition, but they're extremely sure of what they're doing and that they're at least heading in the right direction at the right speed. And if they're not, they're surrounding themselves with people who will tell them the truth about where they stand so they could, you know, not fall behind or not go in the wrong direction a million miles per hour. So the common denominator that I see is that they don't get caught up on past things that they've done. Like you were saying, like past all the accolades, past all the awards, past all the BS, right? That's all things that have happened before. And they're looking forward. Like most of these people are like, and if not all of them are innovators. They're trying to like break like industries. Like they're trying to innovate industries. They're trying to create new industries. They're trying to fill institutional voids. They're trying to do so many things and they're not stopping. So as long as they keep doing that, their companies are going to continue to thrive or branch off into other companies, right? We see many companies operate for, 10, 15, 20 years. And then eventually the market changes where there is no longer a need for that type of business and they have to shift. Disposable cameras being one of them. When DSLRs and phones and stuff started coming on, and they have to start adjusting. They have to start changing the way that they did business. But they changed it and they adjusted. And we've seen the companies that didn't adjust and we saw them fade out, right? And I could give you a million examples, but it's just about adjusting and it's just about continuing to grow and not thinking that you know everything, because you don't. I don't know every day I learn something new. Today, I learned a bunch of things of marketing that I had no clue about that could have been making me a ton of money that I just was like not aware of. And I was like, all right, well, it just goes to show that sometimes just one small conversation with somebody could turn on a light bulb in your head that could completely change your life, but you just have to engage.
I love that you said something that really landed with me. It was they're going in the direction at the speed that they should.
Yeah.
And that's two statements. They're going in the direction they should, and they're going at the speed that they should. And if they're not, they hire experts, they get help, they do what they have to do. Meaning, and I think this is apropos for a lot of people that are either aspiring or kind of younger or less mature beginner business owners. It's not enough to be going in the right direction. You have to be going in the right direction sufficiently fast and aggressive and energetic and with the commitment of time and energy and resources and focus and the drive. You have to have an intensity about it, a speed and urgency about it to create the necessary momentum, or else, at most, maybe you have a hobby.
Yep.
And the successful people, I have been taken with the intensity. I always, my kids say that I'm a little, like dad's extra. They use that adjective. Like, oh, my dad's so extra. Mm-hmm. Every successful person is extra.
Yeah.
Right. So let's speak to the people that might be looking at that list of names you just rattled off and say, well, I want to do that. I want my own version of that result in my life, but I don't have the resources. I can't do what Neil Patel does, right? Because I don't have his budget. I don't have his infrastructure. I don't have his reputation or his name. So what do we have? What does everybody have, right? We have social media. We have free broadcast tools. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we have energy and time.
Yeah.
And we have potentially ideas. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, how do you advise? I'm sure you get the question, from people who are like, how do I get started? And what's your advice for people?
Well, it could go in many directions, right? So maybe you want a career with a great company. You know what you need to do. You got to work your way up the ladder. You got to get some experience. You got to rack up some experience. Get your hands dirty and go apply somewhere that you look up to and work your way up the ladder. I think that is still a great way to go about life. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you want to go down the entrepreneurial route and you want to have a service or you want to have a product, because it's two completely different things, having a service and a product, info product, whatever it may be. And you don't have the resources, right? Like you mentioned, you don't have a lot of resources. Maybe you're a one man, one woman team. You're trying to do your best. What do I suggest? I suggest you organize yourself on what that product or service is going to be. Find out everything about that product or service. Who's doing it already? How are they doing it? How are they doing it better than you? How much are they charging? How could you do it better than them, right? And innovate what's going on. So a book called The 22 Immutable Laws of Branding talks about finding your category. So your business, you're in a category. I'm in the category of online marketing companies. That's my category, right? Iconic is in the category of canvas art, right? For the home, for the office, right? Find your category. Once you find that category, find out who the leaders are. What are they doing right now? And how can you do it better? How can you serve your client better, your customer better? How can you give them a better experience? How can you give it different experience, right? And how are you going to communicate that? Once you've figured this out and you have a scope for who you are, what you're going to do and what you're going to be, before you've invested a dime, up until this point, every single thing that I've told you is absolutely free. Mm-hmm. Okay. It only requires time and you actually wanting to do it. You mentioned Neil Patel. He has a tool called Uber Suggest that lets you look at market trends, right? Lets you look at search data, historical data. Google Trends lets you do the same. Look up the industry that you want to work for. How many people are looking for it? What kind of YouTube videos are there? What kind of hashtags are there for it? What are people posting under those hashtags? Get to know the ecosystem. Get to know the lingo. Get to know the hidden secrets, the black swans, I like to say, from Never Split the Difference, from Chris Voss, who's going to be on the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast soon. Find the black swans of the industry. Find out what's cool and what's not, right? You said your kids are saying extra, right? That's the language and the vocabulary that they're using right now. Like, what is the language and vocabulary of your industry, right? Once you figure that out, you know everything. And then the next step, before you spend another dime or before you spend nothing because you haven't spent anything, you're going to go and you're going to find someone that knows how to do something you don't know how to do, that contributes to the project that you want to bring forth, right? Because you could do it alone. People have done it alone. I started this company alone and I grew it with great people, right? But it doesn't have to be lonely. It doesn't have to be like that. There's another person out there, no matter where they are, right? Hoping to align with another great person that has a great product, right? Like, let's say you have an information product that you're trying to sell. Maybe you're a coach, right? You're great at creating the curriculum. You're great at getting the message across. You're great at having your students retain information and graduate and do great things, but you're not great at digital marketing. So what's missing in your process? You have a gold mine. You have fantastic content, but nobody could see it. It's like putting on a nice suit or a nice dress and staying home. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw how great you looked. You didn't pick up anyone. You didn't get a date. You didn't meet anyone new. You didn't see anyone. You got no opportunities. So what you got to do is you got to find someone that'll help you get out there, right? And you have to bring them the value of being well informed enough about what you're doing so that it could be easy for them to help you distribute, whoever that person may be. It may be somebody that may help you in finances. It may be somebody that'll help you in marketing. It may be someone that'll help you in door-to-door sales or in B2B sales or in cold calls or in cold emails or whatever it is. Find people that are good at doing things that you're not good at. Find a way to bring them value or to provide them an opportunity where they could make money, and you don't have to invest your money. You just have to invest your time. But you have to, those people are your partners. Those people aren't, you don't treat those people like employees. You treat those people like partners, because those are the people that are going to back you up in difficult moments, right? You could be a leader, that's fine. There could always be a leader in the room, but it's all about the group effort. And if you go and find an ecosystem of people and they're out there, free group chats, Facebook groups are great for this type of stuff. There's a Facebook group for absolutely everything with experts talking about all types of things. You could do it on Facebook. You could do it on Twitter. Twitter has groups. Twitter has great groups. You could do it on LinkedIn. You could chat or comment on people's videos on YouTube and get people's points of view, or get the YouTube poster to drop a comment or reply to your comment. You could use, there's an endless way you could do things. You could get free consulting. You want free consulting? Listen to the Millionaire Secrets podcast. There's your free consulting. Or listen to the Hustle Inspire Hustle podcast. Mm-hmm. There's your free consulting. But there's no excuse. Clearly, there's no excuse. We have access to devices, most of us, right, that have access to the entire knowledge of the entire humanity on it in some way or form, be it free or paid, but it's there, right? It's no longer opening up a dictionary or an encyclopedia or asking your grandpa or your grandma. It's online now, and you have tons of people giving free content out. So you want to start a business, understand your product or service, and then find people that will help you grow that business and be great to them, grow with them, provide them with opportunities so they could help you grow and you could help them grow.
I love that. I mean, brilliant, beautiful answer. I'm really glad I asked the question. You made me think of, sort of in everything you were saying, I sort of distilled like two pillars of what you just said. And one is that, and it made me think of the Richard Branson quote where he says, the first job of every entrepreneur is to be raising capital. So always be raising capital. Your partners, your vendors, your customers, your family, your friend, whatever. You have to be raising, creating or attracting resources to do your thing. And capital obviously means money, but it means information. It means, it's all the different things you can leverage. And so if you're starting out without resources, a lot of people, I think, will take that as, oh, that means I'm not cut out for this, or I'm not supposed to do this. What it actually means is you have your first lesson, and that lesson is never going to stop. Mm-hmm. Like, it's literally never going to stop. I mean, if you're trying to get from $1,000 to $10,000, you probably need capital. You need some kind of resources. If you're trying to get from 10 to 100,000, you need resources. If you're trying to get from 100,000 to $1 million, you need resources. Whatever threshold you're trying to achieve, you always need to be attracting resources. That was Richard Branson's point. And so, to your point, or with what you were saying, it's, you may have to just get creative about how to go accumulate the resources. It may not be as simple as just, walk into a bank and leverage your credit and get a loan, but that's still the mandate. There's no wiggle room. There's no apology for it. You can either let it be an excuse or you can let it be a lesson. Those are your only two options, right?
Yeah. And you mentioned credit. So I love credit, by the way. Yeah. There's people that don't like credit, and it's fine. I understand that. But the issue I see with credit in a lot of people and a lot of business owners, there's nothing wrong with like pulling out credit and like building your business. But the thing is that most new business owners don't have financial literacy. Okay. So they know what they're doing. They have a great business model, but the financial literacy becomes a problem, right? So now you start accumulating interest. And if your business is not profiting at the level of interest or higher that you're paying for the money that you're borrowing, then you're going to be deeper and deeper in the hole every single time. So you could bootstrap it the way I've done. I grew the company with absolutely no loans, absolutely nothing, no nothing. Mm-hmm. After the company was running for many years is when I started using like credit cards and using banks to continue to grow the business. And I learned, and I was able to do it because I educated myself. But I see that happen a lot with people. So if you can't or aren't educated enough, don't borrow money.
Yeah.
Educate yourself, because if it's that easy to grab it, it's for a reason. Okay, if it's up for grabs that easily, where they just give you a credit card with $5,000 or $8,000 on it, it's for a reason. It's because they want you to easily spend it. So you need to educate yourself on how to spend that, so you don't get stuck for years paying off a debt that you shouldn't be paying. Right? It's tough, and I've learned those lessons. I've learned all those lessons. I've paid the dummy tax, like people like to say. I paid all the dummy tax. I sure probably got more to pay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, same thing. I love credit, man. Like I run Facebook and YouTube and Google ads every month that I essentially, those platforms give me advertising now, and I don't pay for it for 30 days. You know, when the bill comes. I mean, and by the way, I get an insane amount of travel points, and
there you go,
to the point where I don't pay for flights either. Yeah, it's amazing. But you're right. It's only something to venture into. It's like, don't get in the deep end of a pool if you haven't taken a swim lesson, right? Yeah. So yes, I agree with that very, very much. So you're saying, well, if I want to be successful and I want to know how to scale a business, I might have to access credit. I need to get financial literacy. And if I want to grow my business, you're also saying I might need to go engage and build a network. And Jeff just said that I need to learn how to attract capital and all this stuff. And man, it sounds so complex. It sounds, somebody, I thought it was supposed to be easy. I want it to be easy. And it's like, I tell people all the time, like, no, it's literally, it's supposed to be hard. Like, no, never look for an apology or expect an apology for anything ever at the point where that is, it's sorry, it's so hard. It's literally, that's why most people don't do it. But the other, and the reason I say all this is because when you were talking, the other thing I was hearing was, it's not just about raising capital. It's about raising the value of yourself, because in every single scenario you gave, the X factor to whether or not it would work was you, the person. So you're like, go into groups and comment and add value. Go onto YouTube, comment, add value. Go into a group, attract a network. Learn everything there is to know about a thing. Like whatever it is, it's still at the core, the one blank that the person has to fill in is like, if it's a product, what is the product? If it's a service, what is your value as a provider of the service? And I think a lot of times people try to enter into the concept of owning a business as like a patch for their own deficiencies. Like, if I can create this thing, it'll solve my problems. And I look at it and say, no, quite the contrary. It becomes an obligation and a privilege for you to get better.
Yeah.
You have to get better, and you have to look at the idea of starting a business to say, this will not work unless I'm probably at least willing to do more than most people. I'm not going to say you have to be better than other people, but you probably are going to have to make deeper commitments than most people. And you're very likely going to have to be better than you were before.
Yep.
So, and that takes, I would say, a very unique, you mentioned the term consistency. That takes a very specific, unique, and consistent form of drive to always want to be improving. That some people either, maybe some people are born with it. It seems to be something that people cultivate. Where did you get it? How come you seem to come by it so much?
I think genes are a hell of a thing. Yeah. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, that have always figured out a way, no matter what. I guess we don't believe in giving up. And whether it comes in your genes or whether it's learned behavior, if it doesn't come in your genes, then be the first one that passes it on, right? And then change the way, you have to change the way you think. You have to. Like, you have to change the way you think. If you're auditing your thoughts and your thought process, and you always have negative thoughts, and you're always the victim, and you're always unlucky, and nothing ever works, and my life is so hard, and if that's that's your vibe, then that's why shit doesn't work, right? Mm-hmm. So then you have to get out of that vibe. You have to get out of that mindset. And once you get out of that mindset and you make it to the other side, you find people that have that mindset, and then they don't allow you to get into that previous mindset because it just doesn't exist anymore. It's just not in your, it just doesn't fit anymore. There's no room in your life for it anymore. And then once you're there, then you could become a vehicle to spread that, be it through friends, family, employees, your kids, and you become the person that passes that on. But by all means, if that's the type of thing that you're used to seeing in your environment, negativity, and it's never going to work, and that's only for rich people, or I'll never make it there, or rich people are evil, or money's evil, and you have all of these belief systems, then that's why things aren't working, right? So then you need to remove yourself from those environments, no matter what, no matter who's there, no matter how close they are. It doesn't work. You either remove yourself completely, or you partially remove yourself and give yourself the proper space to think clearly around people that are thinking positively, and then just keep growing.
I love that you talked about external influences. I think a lot of people, as entrepreneurs, I think we generally tend towards like the answer is found within, right? You got to create the solutions. But the reality is it's very hard to outperform your environment.
Yeah.
You stack the deck against you. If you try to outperform your environment, a lot of people just they need to change their influences. Whatever you feed gets bigger. And if you're constantly, whether it's the people, whether it's the shows you watch, whether it's even the music you listen to, or whether it's the books you read, or in many cases, the books you don't read because you're, reading all the top 10 lists on BuzzFeed or whatever, like you got to swap that stuff out. If you have a predatory animal living in your house that's eventually going to eat you if it gets big enough, don't feed it.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, hey man, listen, I know that we're butting up against our end point here. And I feel like we could talk for hours, and I love it and I appreciate it. And maybe we'll get to do it again. But I want to make sure that we squeeze in an opportunity for you to tell the no doubt rapt audience of listeners right now how they can come get more of this amazingness from you, how they can check out your podcast, get your content, even use your agency if they have a business. Tell us where to find you.
Yeah. So if you're looking to learn more about entrepreneurship, building a business, you want to just generally hear the tips, secrets from high-level CEOs and experts, of course, make sure you stay tuned into this podcast, Millionaire Secrets, and check me out also on the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. We have some great material. If you're more of a reader, you could just go on our website, check out the show notes, check out the resources, check out our blogs, check out our tutorials, check out everything we have. We do United States tour. We did a small United States tour before COVID. So we've switched to virtual events. We've had several virtual events. Soon we will also be able to have it in person when the time is right. So just look out for that. And if, in between, just check me out on social media. That's Alex Quin, Quin, Alex Quin. You can check me out on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I put out content that teaches people how to grow their business using marketing. And I just generally speak about my experience. So just hit me up.
Awesome, man. And I encourage everyone to do everything that Alex just said. Alex, I've appreciated your being here, and I've enjoyed it so much.
Thanks, man. Jeff, I appreciate you having me here, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Of course. All right. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care, Alex.